my panel, I want to introduce the first speaker. And the first speaker will be the founder from Shazam, Shiraz Mukaye.
Digital transformation is over. We have all been fast forwarded into fully virtual, whether we like it or not. I tend to be relentlessly optimistic about the future. And I think that in business, conventionally, the companies or the entities who control valuable assets will make disproportionate returns. And my bet is that it's the companies, but more importantly, the individuals who build the confidence in learning how to learn. Those are the entities, those are the institutions, those are the organizations which will be the winners. And so my mission, what I'm trying to do, is to convey that confidence, that willingness to take on this challenge and this mindset of self-efficacy to the people that I'm interacting with.
Now I would like to hand over to Sunny Grünewald. Sunny Grünewald is the managing partner of Inspira 925, board member of 3 Swiss companies, and the associate of the executive MBA Digital Leadership at the HWZ University in Zurich. So Sunny, it's your turn.
I want to share an experience that I had 2015-16 when I'm based out of Zurich, Switzerland, grew up here, spent then 4 years in the States doing my studies there on economics at Yale, and came back to Zurich to start a company. And 3 years into starting that company, I was approached by a Swiss politician, senator, and he told me over a dinner conversation about a project that they were about to start, a private-public initiative that would later become Digital Switzerland. The idea being of this private-public initiative in 2015 that it's important for corporations across industry sectors and also for public actors as well as academic actors to come together and to understand what within the Swiss ecosystem could one do together to strengthen Switzerland as a location around the topic of digital innovation. But I think that this model of private-public initiatives, of multi-stakeholder initiatives, I think that right now we are seeing, particularly with a focus on public health, a lot more of these type of initiatives emerging. And I'm very much with what Shafi earlier said in his talk, where this is a global pandemic. And of course, it will require a global response. And of course, we need to recognize that it will not be solved by one country alone. It will have to be solved by all of us together and also by different sectors. And we'll need to have the private sector do their part in driving innovation as much as we'll need to have the governments doing their part. If you're one of the stakeholders, it's really important to understand why you are engaging, really understand why are you here, why are the different actors here, and how can we make sure we're very clear, very transparent, very open about what are we going to get out of it. I think it's really important to also figure out what are the principles that this multi-stakeholder initiative is going to operate on. For example, you might choose this principle of radical transparency, assuming always that everybody acts in the best intention of the initiative, because trust is so essential, especially as you keep on adding members, as more and more people are no longer part of the entire story, and more people are, perhaps because they don't understand it, because they don't know better, starting to find ways to maybe use it for something else than it was intended to. So I think there's something to say about really focusing on those principles and focusing on understanding why you're there. Then I think it's so key also in that initial phase to understand the importance of potentially what many might feel is over-communication. And with over-communication, I also mean not only within the group, but also towards the outside.
What we can do with that, how we can create perspectives in changing our economy. Just for an example, in Q4 last year, the automotive industry has been highly impacted. So that has been an impact of minus about 20-30% workforce in that industry. Then we thought about for our people, how we can help them to find a new purpose of a communication, how can we move forward with a new vision, with new principles, measures, norms, and rules, and how can we educate and bring those people in the new economy, which is highly digital, and it's completely different to that what those people has been used to work for. So what we explored is that the people are really losing purpose and creating a new purpose, creating a new kind of employership and employment is really heavy for them. So then we started with a digital educational platform and say, if we don't have the place for them here in that industry, how can we then contribute on a purposeful way to educate them, to train them on other industries, on another kind of working? And we see it's not so easy at the end of the day to move people forward, to educate people in a different way, and to bring in perspectives. All of that business we are in, we need workforce from across the world, across Europe.
What will go on in our, let's say, industries in the labor field and in the future? I think 70,000 people being employed at this time, that's a huge effort to do this. Now I want to hand over to Matteo Atti. Matteo Atti is the Executive Vice President, Marketing and Innovation for VistaJet.
I've done business meetings. I've contacted 5 new partners that I want to do incredible things with. And at the end of each call, there was, the idea is great, let's wait to be outside so that we can shake hands. I've been working on different services, etc. And everybody's been incredibly thankful, but their way to prove that they were thankful was sending me a bottle of wine or a gift. What I really started to discover is the element of physicality, connectivity, and human interaction is still something that is going to be needed even after this crisis is over. People are yearning for contact. We all need to be in front of each other. We all need to be there. That is to build the trust. So things that I'm rediscovering, and I see the potential there, and I just can't grasp it because of technology being the only element at the moment, is the power of collaboration, the power of serving somebody and what that creates, the connection that creates, the power of empathy, the power of exchanging and generating new ideas like we're doing right now. The big brands will take the lead. It's up to us to make sure that with the big players in each industry, we push the right innovation agenda. The biggest leaders are now going after taking largest market shares. They see huge opportunities in front. Why wouldn't they go for it? We need to make sure that we are behind each one of them, and behind each one of these, we retain a good society element, a good recognition of who the people on the other side are. My message for today is really, let's embrace collaboration. Believe in the fact that you are making a difference and you can make a difference. Take action and be the change you want to see.
E-commerce was growing, but sadly, because of this, even grannies have had to go and buy online. Things like purposeful brands that do something more beyond just selling you a service or a product, were a trend. We really have seen how companies have opened up and have really become much more human. So that was a trend has been accelerated significantly by coronavirus. Things like the different ways of enjoyment and more enjoyment online have obviously been accelerated as well. So whereas I think the outlook in some instances is gloomy, I live in a country for whom over 15% of GDP is tourism. Imagine now this year is really, we have a gloomy outlook in Spain for that. But I think what companies need to do is leverage that acceleration and actually recognize these changes and act quickly upon them. I'm not sure it's going to be Matteo the biggest who will actually take the share. I think it will be the people who are more flexible to adapt to this new environment, who organize themselves with leaner structures, who are more ready to adapt. I mean, we heard in the health session before, there might be more of this health challenges. There might be things that we're not ready to plan for. So I think companies need to be really flexible to adapt to these changes that are going to come in terms of their structure, in terms of the abilities and the profile of the people they hire. That's the first thing. The second thing I think is they need to continue treating their consumers not like consumers, but like people who have values, people who, of course, value quality and good service, but who want and expect more of companies. So they need to be ready to be much more open and actually interact much more with consumers and give more. And then finally, I think companies need to embrace innovation.
Climate change or polluted oceans are not going to be reverse engineered by a 2-month lockdown. And these two major things might be more and more impactful for the future of our planet than the whole COVID thing. So what did we learn from COVID? And what did we learn about our global economies and the systems that are now supporting our social security systems, taxes, income, basically not only money and finance, but also our social security. We need taxes and income to build our economy. And what we have been wrong about for maybe 30, 40 years, that a ever-growing economy will not only destroy the world and the planet as we know it, but it will also continue in major things like climate change and polluted oceans, which we will not be able to reverse engineer by a lockdown. So I hope that COVID is a lesson for everybody in leadership, no matter if you're a business leader or a country leader. Risk of inaction of innovation is clear to us all. I think that we should all think about our economy for the future. Can we keep getting that massive growth? And if we can, how do we deal with climate change, clean energy, oceans, etc.? We are destroying the one and only planet that we have for money. So I think that the major fast forward move for our global business leaders is don't ignore facts for 15 years. Risk of inaction of innovation and true wealth are in innovation. So I think that the best thing that we can do is create an exit strategy that will fix our economy, get it off the IC beds, and then transform into the new normal, which we've been neglecting to do for a longer period. And I think this was the wake-up call we all needed so badly. So yeah, it's going to be tough times for leaders that have difficulties with Industry 4.0, adapting to digital transformation. We all do it on a pace that is 10 times too slow. Exponential technologies versus our linear minds is not going to work any longer. So I really shout out loud for new leadership and people that have a more radical foresight on the future than the people that have been neglecting all the warnings for so long.
This is a good advice for all of us. So I would like to address the question to the podium. So are we now at the end of the cycle of globalization as we know it so far? I would like to address this question to Matteo.
I exchanged with you a couple of WhatsApps on this topic before.
Yeah.
As you know, I have to deal with some of the most powerful people on earth when they come on private jets, and there's all type of people there. There's incredible minds and there's incredibly sharp business people. I don't know, we could go anywhere. I see people who are retracting and trying just to retain what can be saved and going in defensive mode, scared, and trying just to save what they feel they can save. And other people who are saying, I don't care, I'll leave whatever I have and I'll go out and rebuild and restart from the beginning. And I don't think this is any different than at any other time in history. We will go through destroying some things, but at the same time, the other 50 or 60% of people, hopefully, will go on and rebuild bigger and better things because we will not give up. It's all about human beings, and human beings are social animals. I do still believe that collaboration will win over egoism.